be made more wise. Basically, by the end of this 8 minutes, I think we'll all be better people. I've had the privilege to actually see him in action. Before I even really got to know him, my kids were in a camp, and I got to see him perform for the Maricosta little guys. For the Maricosta camp, they had a little camp from 5 to like 14-year-olds, and I am truly amazed. Literally, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and 15-year-olds all mixed together on a knee, staring at this guy, just absolutely focused. I can't get my child to focus on me for 2 minutes like that. And yet, for about 10 minutes, he had these kids sharpened up and watching him. But then for the next hour, these kids performed better than I have ever seen. The coaches performed better. I've had him come to my soccer and perform and do his thing for my soccer kids. And the dads and the moms who help coach out all were better. They take his cues. He doesn't just perform for teams. He, being a professional baseball player in the past, is able to really relate to kids as athletes. He's had his own struggles, and he's been very open and shared them with us. And those struggles help him connect to other kids who have struggles. So he works with teams. He also works with young adolescents. So if you know kids who want to be better athletes, but they struggle with their own problems, this is a person to send them to. If you know parents who struggle dealing with their kids and how to really reach them and get better performance out of them from their athletics and their schoolwork, this is the person to send them to. It is my honor to introduce to you Coach Chris Stretch.
I definitely picked the right guy to introduce me. Wow, okay. So thanks Russ, really appreciate that. So I am the peak performance coach for the chapter. I fulfill the wellness the part of our chapter. So I've talked a lot about my story and how I got to where I'm doing this kind of work. I also talked a bit about how I work with teams. Right now I'm working with SCVC volleyball, also work with Maricosta baseball, which is like 19-2 right now, and work with other club and travel sports organizations, and also just linked up with Positive Coaching Alliance, where I'll be doing a lot more group training. But today what I wanted to talk about is how do I work with individuals in my practice. So I am actually a licensed psychotherapist, not necessarily in this practice as a licensed psychotherapist, but one of the things that I've been doing with my athletes that has had an incredible amount of value, I mean, tangible, quantifiable value in terms of how well athletes have performed, is what's called chair work. So one of my mentors is Dr. Alan Berger, and he is a psychologist. He does work with a lot of tennis players, so he does have a sports psychology aspect of his practice. And he's a Gestalt therapist, and Gestalt therapy is kind of an old 1960s, type therapy where back in the hippie age, everybody would get around and you do things like you put a pillow up there and you talk to your fear, or you talk to somebody, and then you have these dialogues with different aspects of yourself, or dialogues with different, say, people or groups of people or issues that you're having a problem with. And what that does is that separates the individual from what they're dealing with to where they can have a more effective understanding of what's happening. So I want to present you 2 different case studies that I have where I've done this kind of work, and it's really worked out well. So I had a 9-year-old, this is a 9-year-old boy come in to see me, and he's a 9-year-old, but he was quite intellectual. He was up in his head a bit, and he had probably more intellectual understanding of what was going on than, say, a typical 9-year-old. And he was playing baseball at Beach City's Baseball Academy, which is where I used to coach. So somehow they found my name and I came in. So I'm sitting with 9-year-old. I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, well, when there's nobody on and nobody out in the 2nd and 3rd inning, I get up and I do really well. But later in the game, when it's 6th and 5th and 6th inning and we're down by a run and there's players on, I always strike out. And I said, "Okay, well, tell me a little bit about that. What do you experience is the difference between that 2nd inning and that 5th inning?" So what he did was he said, "Well, and he used the word pressure." So I picked up on that. I said, "Okay, pressure." So he's sitting in this chair, and I said, "Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to grab this pillow," and so I set up 2 chairs. I said, "I want you to take this pillow, and I want you to squeeze it up against your chest, and I want you to imagine all of the pressure going into that pillow. All the pressure." So I love kids like 10 to 12 to 13, man. They just dig in. And so he's closing his eyes and he's doing the best he can. I said, all right. So I said, I want you to throw that pillow in the other chair. So he throws the pillow in the other chair. I said, you know what? I want you to talk to that pressure. What do you want to say? And he just looks at that pressure and he says, you make it not fun, and he just starts saying what's on his mind. You make it not fun, and you make it hard for me. And I said, all right. So I had him sit in the other chair, and I had him put the pressure on his lap right here. And I said, now what does your pressure tell you? And I kid you not, I did not do a darn thing but set up this exercise. And he looked at himself and he said, you have to get a hit or else you're a failure. And your whole team is going to hate you. And I, wow, of course I relate to that because that's how I was when I was an athlete, when I got really, really badly in my head. So then I had him sit in the other chair, and I said, well, what do you want to say to that? And the first thing he did is he started crying, and I started crying. Because I remember that, man. That is a ton of pressure. And I said, man, it makes the game not fun, doesn't it? And we started crying a little bit more, and we just said, wow, we got to deal with this. So I said to him, well, what do you really want to say to your pressure? So we kind of worked on it, and what the problem with him is that success was perfection. So that's what we want to pick up on, with athletes, and really, a good psychotherapist who's going to do that is going to pick out a working point. Where is this person fixed in a way where that way that they're seeing something is really limiting their ability to take care of themselves, right? Limiting their ability to adapt and to compensate. And he thought that success was perfection. And then his neurotic mind, and we all have this, lined up all the different, connected all the dots. So not only is success perfection, if I'm not perfect, I fail. If I fail, I'm a failure. And if I'm a failure, my whole team's going to hate me. So we had to rework that. So with my help, we developed a way for him to say, you know what? You don't define me, I define me. Success isn't perfection. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to go up there and play the game one pitch at a time and do my best one pitch at a time. And my team is going to like me and support me whether I'm perfect or not. And then he said, again, you don't define me, I define me. And it shifted. And that kid is now 11 years old, and he comes in to see me now once a month, and we just kind of hang out. He doesn't even mention the word pressure anymore. He just goes up, and then, of course, from there we developed a pitch-to-pitch process where he gets in, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he has a process to where he can play the game one pitch at a time. So that's success story number one. Success story number two is working with a high school volleyball player that was having a really hard time with her coach and how her coach would deliver the message that this coach was giving to her. So, of course, we had a little bit of fun with it. So I had her coach be in the chair, and I said, what do you want to say to your coach? And she's just looking at it. I don't say anything to my coach because, of course, she's petrified of the coach. I said, well, your coach is here, but your coach is not really here. Let's hear what you have to say. And she started unloading. You don't know what you're talking about. You're mean. You're a blanket, blankety, blankety, blank. I'm like, all right, let's get into this, right? So as she went, so then I said, all right, sit in the other chair. I want you to be your coach. What came out was empathy right off the bat. She, from sitting in the coach's chair, said back to herself, I'm just doing my best. I'm trying to make you the best volleyball player you can be. Boom. Number one, she had empathy. Very, very important, because when we don't have empathy, we take things personally more than we ever would. We block ourselves from understanding someone else's perspective. So now we had to figure out the working point. So what was the working point? With the boy, the working point was his idea of success. With the girl, the working point was she was taking on the way the message was delivered, taking it personal, getting flooded, getting all up in her head. And what she was missing was that the coach was actually telling her some things that were actually pretty good for her to be a better volleyball player. But because she couldn't take it in, because she couldn't handle the way the message was delivered, she had a tough time with that. So what we did was we took two pillows, and I said, all right, so I'm going to be your coach. So I used the words that she had already said the coach said, and I gave a specific situation. So I threw these two pillows at her, and I said, one pillow is what I'm saying, and one pillow is the way I'm saying it. So I said, you need blank, right? And I gave her, it was her own words. It was what her coach had said before. And so she grabbed 2 pillows, and I said, I want you to throw this pillow's the way she said it. This pillow's what she said. What do you want to do with the way she said it? And she went like that, which was awesome, by the way, because the way she said it, she didn't need. Get that out of there. I don't need to pay attention and absorb and embrace how you're telling me something, because quite frankly, you don't really need to talk to a 16-year-old that way, but we'll just get that over there. But then she brought in this. This was the technique, advice, the help that she was getting. So what did she do? She stopped taking it personally. Senior year, watching her play in her senior year was amazing. Very quick, she'd glance over at the coach. She totally and completely focused on her team. No longer was this personal thing that she was doing with what the coach was taking, was making it personal, was triggering her into being overly concerned with what the coach was saying with her. She was taking the good bits of information from her coach. She was letting go of the way the coach was saying it. It was overly critical, and she was staying connected to the game, playing the game 1 point at a time. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the kind of work that I'll do with individuals to try to help them improve their functioning while they're playing in the competitive environment they're in, and also dealing with challenging coaches and challenging teammates. So that's what I do. So if you have any teams, which then, of course, what my greatest referrals are coaches of teams, that's really what I'm looking for. So thanks a lot for hearing me talk.